Hey guys, there's been a bit of an awkward development. While the first part of my commentary was being uploaded to YouTube, I went over to Brody's channel in order to cop the link to the original video that I was responding to. As it so happens, Brody privated the video, which means that I can no longer link it in the description. I don't know why Brody privated his video. There's no update about this decision on his Twitter account nor his Instagram, so I have no idea if he privated the video because he recognized how bad it was or what. I mean, shit, the original tweet that Brody made when the video first went up is still public, so honestly, I'm still a little unsure if he had even meant to private it. Nevertheless, I do plan on uploading the rest of the commentary to YouTube. Whether Brody regrets making the original video or not, my criticisms against it are still valid, and I think they should be made public. With that being said, on to part 2. Did you even write a script before you filmed this? If you didn't, that's embarrassing. If you did, that's really embarrassing. Nevertheless, let's keep going.
Okay. We're like a
That was-
throuple now, I feel.
No,
This is what it feels
Jesus.
like. We're all getting along. I'm like, is this a throuple? You tell me about your house.
No.
it's just friendship. I don't know what is happening. Look, I'm not upset. I just find it bizarre. I mean, can you keep that from me? That this is so fucking bizarre. That my brother-in-law, Hila's brother, is now in a Trisha Paytas video doing mukbangs, and I didn't even know. Can
I
you just
didn't say that.
imagine? I mean, can you just imagine how strange this is?
There's no denying that. You
Yeah,
transparently
right.
said that you love having her on because it's great content and people check it out. I mean, that's not
I
Well,
secret.
mean, but also because it is entertaining content.
It's entertaining as fuck. Why do you think I endure her? She's insane, but it's entertaining. That's why people like it. It's crazy.
He's been making reality TV for his audience now with Trisha Paytas and has acted like, I don't know why people are mad. The reason I have her on is because she's crazy. She's just so kooky. She's out of her mind. It's so entertaining. What if I told you Trisha Paytas is an actor? The whole dumb blonde thing that she does, it's a whole shtick. It's a whole troll shtick.
Oh, please, dear God, no. Do not do this to me. Don't tell me that somebody else is going to attempt to claim that the drama between Trisha Paytas and H3H3 is all fake. Oh, don't do this to me. Okay, let's do this. Firstly, I'm not a big fan of how deceptively that footage was edited. In that first clip you played, Ethan goes on to mock Trisha for thinking that she was his friend.
We're like a
That was-
throuple now, I feel.
No,
This is what it feels
Jesus.
like. We're all getting along. I'm like, is this a throuple? You tell me about your house.
No.
it's just friendship. Not everything has to be sexual.
Don't know what that means.
It's just called. I mean, I wouldn't even. Friendship is even a stretch because this is only our second time seeing each other.
Anybody with half a brain can tell from that clip that Ethan is taking the piss out of Trisha. However, you deliberately cut the footage after a certain point so that you could then juxtapose it with an out-of-context clip of Ethan freaking out about Trisha and therefore prove that the drama between them is fake. This is the craziest level of dishonesty that I think I've ever seen in all my years of doing commentaries. But I know that that isn't the end of your terrible point, so let's keep going.
She's been on so many programs, you wouldn't believe it. She's got quite the resume, including, but not limited to, The Tim and Eric Show.
Accessible to me in a way.
It seemed like you could maybe do it.
Yeah, and it what
Seinfeld didn't feel.
Well, first of all, pointing out that Trisha Paytas has been on several different TV shows doesn't prove that her personality is fake so much as it proves that she's an actor. Second of all, you failed to mention that Trisha, according to IMDb, has only ever appeared in one episode of the Tim and Eric show. That's right, one episode. Why is that fact important? Because Brody then emphasizes that Ethan had Tim Heidecker, who, by the way, is one half of the comedy duo Tim and Eric, on his podcast, which is idiotic as fuck, considering that Ethan had Tim Heidecker on his podcast on August 31st, 2018, 8 or so months before Ethan uploaded his first video about Trisha Paytas, the Instagram versus reality video, to his main channel. Trisha did not occupy a single thought in Ethan's head back when he hosted Tim Heidecker on the H3 podcast, so I don't know why the fuck Brody is bringing this up. It is quite literally irrelevant information.
Nathan For You, which, by the way, in Ethan Klein's own words, is one of his favorite shows ever.
And then Eric and Nathan roll up.
Oh my God.
First Nathan come and he's hanging out, and I'm like, I'm trashed. I'm blackout drunk. And this is when I was like in the midst of my biggest, like I was just a super fan. I still love the guy, but I was in the middle of watching a show and I was like, this guy's a fucking genius. I love everything he does.
So he saw Trisha Paytas on the show as an actor.
He may very well have, but let me just pose a question that I'm sure will blow your mind. Maybe, just maybe, Ethan forgot, or just didn't know, that Trisha was on Nathan For You because he had no idea who Trisha Paytas was back when he watched that show. That's crazy! I know, but it's worth consideration. Also, can you guys guess how many episodes of Nathan For You Trisha Paytas was in? Yep, one fucking episode. Wow, you're really blowing the lid off of this conspiracy, my dude. This is a speculative point anyways. You don't know how often Ethan watches Nathan For You, or how long ago he watched the show. So how can you so confidently claim that Ethan must have seen Trisha Paytas as an actor on this show?
America's Got Talent.
Look like you work in Vegas.
Really? I know I get that a lot. Someone thought I was a stripper or a porn star. I'm like, nope, I love Jesus. I'm not like that. I'm like a computer programmer, but I work in my house so no one ever sees me. And like, I'm a rapper.
Yes, a rapper.
A rapper.
All right.
Every single summer when I turn on my TV, I'm watching HT thinking how should be me on that stage on occasion. My soul off a pole. Didn't take it seriously because I never had talent.
The Millionaire Matchmaker. She's been on Ellen.
I read.
Okay. So do I.
I mean, I read kind of fast, you know? Like, yeah.
Oh, you read? That's your...
I read. That's my talent.
But what do you do for a living?
Oh, I'm a waitress.
Uh-huh.
My Strange Addiction.
My name is Trisha, and I can't stop tanning. I mean, I could stop tanning. I just don't want to stop.
And the list goes on. There's a video on YouTube dedicated to all the TV appearances she's made.
But those clips are all from reality TV shows. Yes, I know that reality TV is highly exaggerated and overly edited, but ostensibly the point of that genre is to broadcast reality. So unless you care to explain how Trisha is putting on an act during each and every one of these separate clips, then I'm sorry, but none of this proves your point at all. To top this all off, the last clip of Trisha that you played came from the series My Strange Addiction, which is a show about highlighting people's strange addictions. So unless you want to explain how Trisha Paytas' addiction to tanning, which was the sole reason she was on that show, was all staged, I don't want to fucking hear it. Also, notice how the very Wikipedia page that Brody is citing lists Ellen DeGeneres as the only reality show that Trisha appeared on as an actress, while America's Got Talent, Millionaire Matchmaker, and My Strange Addiction were each listed as shows where Trisha Paytas appeared as herself. This means that almost every single clip Brody just showed us was completely antithetical to his own argument.
U-double-L-S-H-I-T. New word. A-R-T-I.
artist. I say again, bullshit artist.
Now, do you think shows are bringing her in for auditions and going, oh my God, this lady's just crazy, out of her mind. Great TV. No, dude. She's an actor. She's auditioning for roles. This is her thing. This is the character she likes to play.
Okay, then please explain why Trisha was on My Strange Addictions. If these shows don't bring on crazy people because they think it'll be entertaining to broadcast their insanity, then why would Trisha go on a show like My Strange Addiction? I don't know if you know this, Brody, but addictions are not something that mentally healthy people have. Then again, this is the same guy who can't read a fucking Wikipedia page, so why would I expect him to know that?
She's even said it herself. Paytas has said she was inspired by comedian Andy Kaufman, whom she has been a fan of since childhood. Trisha said he made his living just being all sorts of characters, and nobody really knowing who the real Andy Kaufman is. And in a sense, I don't think any of you know who the real Trisha Paytas is either. This is the exact thing that Ethan has built a career off of, being against reality TV fake type bullshit, including somebody like Trisha Paytas.
And if you actually watched the Trisha Paytas episode of the H3 podcast, you would know that Ethan and Hila did call Trisha out for being a troll.
So when you say I'm a troll, what do you mean? Because what I define troll as is someone, and I don't mean to be provocative, but I do think of you as a troll because I see that you are at the center of a lot of dramas that drives views to your channel that I sometimes question if you do believe that. Or for example, when you respond to my videos, I don't necessarily believe that you're as angry as or upset as you are leading on to believe in your videos.
You can't claim that Ethan and Hila only brought Trisha onto their podcast to be all buddy-buddy with her when they're literally calling her a troll to her face. How did anyone take this video seriously?
I'm about to dance this shit dry.
Now, in a twist of sudden events, Trisha Paytas is dating Hila Klein's brother.
It's not even that I'm upset that they're together. I just want him to tell me what's happening.
Yeah, I'm sure, because Ethan and Hila, I'm sure, would have no issue at all with a family member dating somebody who's just so crazy and senile. Yeah, or Ethan knows Trisha Paytas is an actor, and they created this fake reality TV together. Yeah, I wonder which one of those options it is. Yeah, okay, cool.
Wow, this segment of the video should be played in a college class as an example of how not to present information, because Brody just left out a shit ton of context here. Okay, Brody, so the reason why Ethan and Hila are upset about Trisha Paytas dating Hila's brother Moses is because on Trisha's second and third appearances on the H3 podcast, she was a contestant on The Bachelorette, an in-house reality show which is a ripoff of The Bachelor. The main gimmick behind both of these shows is that a bunch of people have to compete with one another for the heart of one bachelor/bachelorette. In Ethan and Hila's version of the show, they have their own fans send in dating submissions that their contestant then goes over on the following episode of the podcast. The first contestant on their show was Ian the intern, one of Ethan and Hila's own employees on the podcast. Ian ended up ruining the competition by dating one of the participants behind the scenes, which they explain here.
As you guys know, the first season of The Bachelor with Ian, our salaried employee, he met somebody in the DMs, and he's now, well, I'm happy to report he's in a faithful relationship with her, which I'm very happy about. But there was a lot of drama because he basically ruined the show. We were never able to have the show go to fruition because he was already in love with this girl in the DMs. I was like, well, what's the point of even continuing now?
Right.
He wouldn't let her come on the show. He wouldn't let us talk to her. So I was like, okay, you ruined it.
When Trisha became the next contestant on their show, Ethan and Hila tried to run the competition as fairly as possible. They let both Moses and Trisha, who seemed like they were getting along well before the show began, know that if any funny business went down between the two of them, they would have to disclose that to Ethan and Hila. Turns out, Moses and Trisha both went behind their backs and hooked up before the contest ended, which is all explained here.
We went through the first 2 rounds. We saw a bunch of videos of people that wanted to be with Trisha.
And we told her that if someone reaches out in the DM, just let us know. Just keep us in the loop.
I says, look, the first season was ruined
Yes.
by lack of integrity in the system. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but if you have a back channel conversation, you have to disclose that to us.
Yes.
You have to tell us. We need to bring them on the show. I don't want another wild card situation. And then we have your brother. I told him the same thing. I said, if you're going to be involved, no shenanigans, no wild card, no DM, no bullshit. You have to tell us everything. And he swore.
The last thing we knew, right, was that they made contact in the DMs. That was it.
Yes.
Then I think what happened was that we had a power outage for a full day here during quarantine, by the way. Next day, the internet comes back up. We open our phones, open Twitter, and this is what we see.
Nobody message us. Your brother.
Nothing.
Now, if you want to prove that all of this, the contest, Moses and Trisha's backstabbing, and Ethan's outrage is all fake, then by all means, show me the evidence and I'll gladly take your side. However, all you have given me is pure speculation and I don't jive with that. Sorry. Plus, there's also the fact that you failed to prove that Trisha was an actor, so, that's a mark against your argument as well.
Yo, you know what's tripping me out about Trisha? How she's like in everything? She was in Nathan For You. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Because I watched, that's like my favorite show ever, and I watched it before I knew anything about Trisha. Hold on, let me show you. Oh, this is so...
And we keep saying she's been in every show, and it's like,
She was
literally.
so she was the. Remember how he had that show about the security guard who loves big tits?
Yeah.
She was the big titted girl that he fell in love with.
That clip doesn't prove that Ethan faked his beef with Trisha. It only proves that he acknowledges that Trisha Paytas was on one of his favorite shows. In fact, remember the point that I made earlier about this? Maybe, just maybe, Ethan forgot, or just didn't know, that Trisha was on Nathan For You because he had no idea who Trisha Paytas was back when he watched that show. Well, pay close attention to what Ethan says in this clip.
Yo, you know what's tripping me out about Trisha? How she's like in everything? She was in Nathan For You. Did you know that?
No, I
Because
didn't.
I watched, that's like my favorite show ever, and I watched it before I knew anything about Trisha. Hold on, let me show you.
There! Ethan just said that he watched the show before he ever knew who Trisha Paytas was, so obviously there wasn't any reason for him to remember that she was ever on the show, because in his mind, she was just another bit actress. How do you play evidence that goes against your own point? It's insane! None of your arguments hold up to basic scrutiny.
An absolute necessity to take a look at, and which is also the biggest fuck you from Ethan and Hila to every single viewer out there, is none other than the podcast. Throughout the lifetime of the podcast, it's been proven over and over again that Ethan is simply not cut out to be a podcast host or an interview of any sort. Let's take a look back very quickly at the infamous Bill Burr interview.
Give out all that information.
Oh, you don't even want to say how many because you're afraid that it will
Yeah, by all means,
compromise
keep
your
talking
privacy.
about it. Is there any way you can cut this out? I'm honest, dude. Like,
Seriously?
Yeah, no, dude. There's fucking lunatics out there.
Okay.
Whoa.
Off the air, I'll cut it.
All right.
Jeez. I love how surprised he is. Jeez.
Well,
There's
you can
actually-
mention the
there's
amount.
absolutely crazy people out
Okay,
there.
yeah. Whew. All right. I don't know why that got so...
My problem with this point is not with the argument itself, but with how Brody fails to expand on it. He once again just plays one clip from the Bill Burr episode of the H3 podcast which is a cringy clip, don't get me wrong, but he doesn't explain how this clip proves that Ethan is a bad interviewer. He doesn't even play any other clips from the Bill Burr interview to bolster his case. He just plays the clip, hopes that it's enough to convince you that he's right, and then moves on to his next point. I could easily contend that you're cherry picking and point you to the Steve-O episode of the podcast, where Ethan and Steve-O have a natural, easygoing conversation, void of Ethan interrupting his guests or asking questions that are too personal. I won't do that because this commentary is already getting pretty long and I want to get through Brody's video as quickly as possible, but the mere fact that I could do so just proves how lazily the argument is being presented.
To top off his terrible interview skills, there have been countless times where Ethan has, quite simply, refused to entertain, which, may I remind you, is his fucking job. Take a look at this clip here.
High-tech, low pizza. Well, it's been fun. A lot of scooter talk.
Yeah, maybe too much. Maybe we need to slow down on the scoot.
Scoot on out of here with the scooter talk.
Maybe we need to walk a little. I've been scooting too much.
Right.
Okay, never mind. I will absolutely call you out for cherry picking, motherfucker. You do know that there are almost 200 episodes of the HD podcast, right? That amounts to hundreds of hours of live content that Ethan and Hila have put on YouTube, which means two things. One, it's downright impossible to avoid having the occasional moment of dead air when you've been running a podcast, especially one as heavily produced as the HD podcast, for a long period of time. Two, you're singling out one moment of Ethan fucking around on a soundboard for half a minute as definitive proof that he and Hila are lazy hosts without providing the context behind that clip. This is a textbook example of dishonesty. For all we know, Ethan could be messing around on that soundboard in order to mess with Hila as a joke. You said that there were countless times where Ethan and Hila refused to entertain their audience.
And to top off his terrible interview skills, there have been countless times where Ethan has, quite simply, refused to entertain.
Show me the countless times. Brody has failed to expand on any of his criticisms and provide any evidence that will support his arguments. At least any evidence that isn't out of context, which, may I remind you, is his fucking job. Yeah, I can be a condescending asshole too.
Ethan has built a huge audience doing something specific, that being, roasting people, calling people out for their misbehavior, things of that nature, and has completely went the other direction and said, we're done with that. They haven't made H3H3 videos. They don't do it anymore. In fact, they've both stated this is just where they're at in their life now. This is what they enjoy doing. They haven't made H3H3 videos. They don't do it anymore. They haven't made H3H3 videos. They don't do it anymore. They haven't made H3H3 videos. They don't do it anymore. They haven't made H3H3 videos. They don't do it anymore. They haven't made H3H3 videos. They don't do it anymore. They haven't made H3H3 videos. They don't do it anymore. The podcast is easier, more ads, more money. Instead of doing something that they loved doing and built this audience off of, they've completely abandoned that and have fed the audience now with such lackluster, no effort podcasts.
That one is going to be hard to top. For sure.
Now going, talking about. Sorry, Hila, am I hitting your your J's?
You are.
Fuck. So stupidest thing to do.
Okay, Brody, you can continue to cherry pick examples from one episode of the HD podcast and act as though that's indicative of what the entire podcast is like, but unless you expand on your point and explain why, in context, each of these clips are valid proof of your claims, I'm still not going to buy your argument.
And then other times where Ethan goes, what should we talk about? I don't know. What else should we talk about? What do you mean, what should you talk about? There's a million things in the fucking world. This is your show. You can literally write what to fucking talk about, and he can't even do that. That's how lazy this guy is. It's unbearable to fucking watch.
Well, first of all, I'm pretty sure that Ethan does follow a script on his podcast. I mean, didn't Gokunaru criticize Ethan for this during his Death of H3H3 video?
So Ethan's clearly just looking for reasons to not like this guy, and he focuses heavily on the fact that his jokes are dated and they're kind of racist in a way. And oh my god, did you see that? Look at this. My god, Ethan. So we just got a good look at the Google Doc he uses to question this guy. And wouldn't you know it, it outlines every single question he asks.
For me, and I got a big outfit. And
So you're a successful dentist. What is your passion? Is it comedy or dentistry?
Well, I wasn't doing this for money. I'm not making money doing it. It's a
Right.
passion from here.
So what does your wife think about the...
She thinks I'm nuts. And I got my oldest son that thinks I'm nuts, and my young one thinks I'm hysterical.
What does she think about all the female attention you get?
It even has some of the fucking jokes that he uses.
Jimmy emails me very frequently. He pretty much emails me like 5 times a day. We're best friends. He emails Hila too.
Except I ended up blocking him.
So now we know why he was so pushy during the JonTron interview. When he has an agenda, he just goes with it. He doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't even listen to what the people are saying. He asks the questions he wrote down and doesn't even care to transition them properly.
Considering that Brody brought Gokunaru's video up as a good example of someone calling out Ethan's hypocrisy,
The hypocrisy with Ethan Klein is actually never ending. I mean, there's somebody who made a hour-and-a-half video on just that, on just statements of hypocrisy pretty much.
I have to ask, what do H3 detractors have against the podcast again? Is it that Ethan is a lazy host who's incapable of holding a conversation and needs a script? Or is it that he's too rigid and agenda driven and he shouldn't follow the scripts that he does write so closely? It's either one or the other. It can't be both.
And he's done shit like this multiple times, where he completely checks out and unwilling to entertain.
There's an old Amazing Atheist clip that explains the issue with what Brody just did far better than I can.
Yeah, okay. Don't bother pointing them out or anything. Just vaguely allude to them. That's just as good. They're out there, you're blind, you don't see them.
I mean, the viewers have given him this lifestyle. Could you imagine if I film an episode, 5 minutes in, everything's going well, it's flowing, everything's great, and then I just said, I'm just gonna do this on the keyboard for the rest of the time. I mean, you guys would find my address and make sure I'm swatted twice a week for the rest of my life.
Oh my lord, are we still on this? It was one fucking clip that you played out of context, so get the fuck over it and move on.
Essentially what has happened is Ethan and Hila have scammed every single person that's ever supported them.
Thank God, we're finally getting on to the main point of this video. Okay, Brody, hit me. What's your argument?
By first garnering their attention with videos that they like, being roasting people, making fun of them, calling people out. That's what they like. That's what they subscribed for. And now that they have abandoned, they've completely went the easy route of doing a podcast.
I just sat through 20 minutes of awful and dishonest arguments, and my reward for that was a speculative point. There's no proof that any of what Brody's saying is true. There's no evidence for his position. It's just, he just makes the claim and acts as though his claim is fact. What do you people want me to say about this? How can I possibly argue against such a stupid position? I don't know what to say at this point. I just don't. Creepshow Art's video on H3H3 may have been bad, but at least it was short and only focused on a single controversy. HoorayPerfect, on the other hand, was desperately trying to make a video that would rival Gokunaru's The Death of H3H3 video in popularity and influence, but he didn't want to put in the research that Gokunaru did to prove any of its arguments, so instead we got a 32-minute temper tantrum. I mean, it's incredible how void of useful criticism this video is. It isn't even fun to cover anymore. It's just sad. Listen man, would throw in the towel at this point, but we've only got about 10 minutes of the video left to cover, so fuck it. Let's see what other nonsense Brody can throw at us.
Which, by the way, is a total ripoff of the Howard Stern show. I mean, to the studio design, all the way to the purple couch.
Hey, remember when I brought up the Steve-O podcast earlier in this video? Well, now I'm going to pull clips from that podcast in order to completely dismantle Brody's argument. Criticizing the H3 podcast for being a ripoff of the Howard Stern show is fucking stupid, because when Steve-O told Ethan how the design of his set was similar to how the set of the Howard Stern show looked, Ethan admitted that he told the set designer to rip off the set design of the Howard Stern show.
I'm sure a million people have pointed out that this is exactly like Howard Stern.
I totally ripped it off.
Yeah.
Well, when we had our set designer here, I said, well, Howard was like my inspiration for the show, not really podcasts. My dream was to have more acts and more stuff going on, which I think we can build up to. But I says, rip off Howard's set as much as possible, because I think he's got the best set.
Yeah.
So the font is the same.
I'm a huge fucking Howard fan.
Yeah, me too. Dude, Howard is fucking crazy what he's achieved, and how like that guy is a entertainment god. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a real legend.
I'm a huge fan, and props to you for paying homage.
Yeah, most definitely. I readily admit and own up that we just completely ripped off his studio. I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna try to reinvent a studio design. I'm just gonna fucking rip off Howard.
It would be one thing if Ethan ever denied that he was trying to rip off the Howard Stern show, but he never did. So this point, just like all of your other points, is invalid.
Now all the way to the assistants, who are supposed to be characters on the show, which he treats like shit.
What am I doing? Why do you even talk to him? Like, I tried to talk to him. I tried to include him in the show. I like that dynamic here on the show is what makes it interesting for me. We got 3 guys back there, a bunch of characters, and the 2 of us in here. I'm trying to make the show interesting. I'm trying to enrich the dynamic, but Ian refuses to engage. Like, after all I've done for him, I gave him purpose, I gave him a job, I gave him a girlfriend, a love life, everything. I built him up to the man he is today, and I don't know what I do to deserve this disrespect.
Oh yeah, it sure looks like Ian is just so crushed by what Ethan is saying about him. What with his sarcastic mannerisms and the smug smile he has on his face, this is truly the mark of a devastated man whose soul is being ripped apart by his boss. You are really reaching here, Brody. Oh, and by the way, this is another example of cherry picking. I highly doubt that Brody's going to play any clips of Ethan being nice to Ian or any of his other employees, because that would fly in the face of his argument.
No, you do, and I respect that. I can't have you running around like a fucking marauder.
And I won't.
But we only live life once. Can I tell a bunch of jokes about your wife?
You played a 6-second clip from the Howard Stern show and didn't provide any context for it, nor did you explain how the character dynamics worked on that show. For the millionth time, you just played a single clip and acted as though that was enough to prove your point. I am starting to go insane here.
But they've taken you along this journey, giving you what you want for a short period of time, getting you to help them start up this clothing line, which now they have in Zoomies, and they're making so much money, right? Multi-million-dollar company, to doing this on the podcast. Not trying whatsoever.
Well, yeah, that's how you made the podcast look, because you cherry-picked your evidence. What do you want, a fucking medal for cherry-picking?
Are you telling me that this effort is deserving of a $9 million mansion, which they claim they moved into because they got swatted.
We moved because we kept getting swatted. That was the reason we decided to move.
I mean, how fucking dumb are you? Call the police, say, hi, my name is yada yada. I have a popular YouTube channel. I'm at a high risk of being swatted. I've gotten swatted before. Will you please call me if there's ever a complaint about myself or my residence, just to make sure everything's okay before you bring a SWAT team to bust down my door. But he's so fucking stupid. He can't even think to do that.
Wow, you are a piece of shit. I mean it, you are genuinely a piece of shit. Your contention that it's that easy for people to prevent themselves getting swatted shows that either you have no empathy for other human beings or you have zero life experience. Because Ethan explained that after the first time that he had gotten swatted, the police took special note of his address so that it wouldn't happen again. And guess what? After that happened, he got swatted 2 more times.
Well, among other things, we kept getting swatted by people. Which, first of all, the first time it happened was terrible enough because the police show up with their guns drawn. There's like multiple helicopters with their lights on the house. And then they left our gate. The police left our gate open and Shredder got out. It was
awful. It was traumatizing. It was absolutely awful. But we thought, okay, let's see if it will happen again.
Well, and then the police knew that we had a special location, so they didn't need to respond with such force. So once it started happening again, they still arrived with the helicopters and the guns drawn. I mean, luckily they didn't force entry because we weren't actually home, but they didn't force entry or anything like that.
Ethan did exactly what you suggested, and your advice still didn't work. The fucking swatting wasn't even the only reason why he and Hila moved into their mansion. They also mentioned how they and their housekeeper were getting stalked.
And that, I mean, that's obviously the worst of it, but there was people like sending pizzas to our house and sending packages. There was weirdos stalked outside our house across the street in their cars, like following our housekeeper, following her home. I mean, there was just all this weird shenanigans, dude. It just wasn't cool.
You had to have heard Ethan explain this, because you play a clip from this very podcast highlight earlier in your video.
Ethan Klein may very well be the biggest piece of shit to ever grace the website known as youtube.com. And I mean that with full sincerity, by the way. Because I have seen video after video made on Ethan Klein, particularly calling out his hypocrisy and contradictions and statements that he's made on his Unbearable podcast.
I'm serious. That's the reality of being as famous as we are. But I think
it really is for YouTubers.
If you're gonna attempt to murder me like a little coward-ass bitch, at least give me a shot at drawing faster, like a cowboy. Not funny? Don't come to my house. But if you do, I have a shotgun by my bed that's loaded and ready. I'm serious. That's the reality of being as famous as we are. But I think
it really is for YouTubers.
Okay, that settles it. Brody is a fucking liar who made this video in bad faith, and whatever respect I had for him has gone right out the fucking window.
Ethan and Hila have went above and beyond to make it seem that they're not disgustingly rich, just so their audience can have just a small tiny sliver of respect for them, as well as this wave of relatability.
Even if that were true, why would knowing that Ethan and Hila are filthy rich cause their audience to lose their respect for them? Why would you think that their audience wouldn't be able to relate to them if they found out how filthy rich they were? I'm getting some very anti-capitalist undertones from your point here, Brody. Are you sure you're not a communist?
I'm gonna tell you exactly how much money
No,
she
don't
made.
tell me, don't
She made $8,000 from that video.
Wait, you have to cut that because you tell me how much you made on the video, like your last video. Tell me how much you made right now.
$2,000.
Look it up. Can I see it? I showed you mine. Let me see yours. It's only fair.
No,
It is fair.
It's not fair.
Like if you talk about my money, so
Yes.
let me talk about your money. So that way, let me see on the last podcast how much you made. You don't have to. Let me just see it and share it out loud. Pull it up. That's only fair.
Well,
we
do have a YouTube contact if you want.
You have to edit that out then because
No,
it really
I
is. I know.
Okay, you fucking jackass. Let me explain why you're the biggest moron on the face of the planet Earth.
That clip you played of Ethan shouting out how much money Trisha made on one of her videos? Yeah, it was out of context. But honestly, who's surprised about that at this point? Here's what Ethan was actually doing in that clip. On October 7th, 2019, Trisha Paytas uploaded a video titled I Am Transgender Female to Male, where she came out as a trans man.
I identify with men better. People always think like there's something wrong with me because I don't have like that many girlfriends. Like I love girls. Like I do love girls and I love like their sensitivity and all that stuff like that. But that's why I identify more as like a gay man because I like guys, but I also identify as a guy.
Trisha got an unbelievable amount of backlash from the LGBT community who accused her of lying about having gender dysphoria for views and money. The next day, she uploaded an apology video where she maintained that her coming out video wasn't an attempt to troll people.
I've obviously trolled in the past, and I've obviously said stuff that I don't mean or I don't stand behind. This is something that I so strongly stand behind, and I felt like, you know what? I come out with this because I feel like there's a lot of people, and maybe there's not a lot, but I've gotten a few DMs from people who say I also struggle with gender identity.